Hello, this is Old School from WhatTheBuck.net, reporting Week 2, Buffalo Bills wrap-up. Bucs start the season 0-2. A lot of high hopes going into Ralph Wilson for the first time. Buccaneers felt like this was a game that we had a real legitimate shot at. No disrespect at all to the Bills, who put on a heck of a game against the New England Patriots and legitimately should have won that game were it not for a fourth-quarter collapse and some serious injuries to the linebacking core. But the Buccaneers in Week 1, despite the score with the Cowboys, actually showed some impressive things for a young squad. A rushing game that piled up 160-plus yards on a Cowboys defense thought to be very stout, gave up 0 sacks against the Cowboys defense that was thought to be very stout. The weaknesses showed themselves in the form of big plays. The defense clearly not adjusting very well to the Jim Bates scheme with a lot of bump and run, press coverage, left some of our secondary guys on islands and gave up 3 plays of 42 yards or greater. Which really kind of did the team in. 20-14 going into the fourth in that game, and here we found ourselves 20-14 going into the fourth with the Bills after spotting 17 points, starting out the game in ugly fashion. The Bills clearly watched the tape, took a shot long. Lee Evans on a fly route down the side with Rondé Barber in tow, get a big score to start out 7-0. Byron Leftwich under duress tries to hit Cadillac Williams in the flat, overthrows the pass, pick 6 the other way. All of a sudden we look up. We're down 17. Fortunately, the young team does keep their heads about them and comes back, fights back to, like I said, to within 2014 after a fumble recovery by Savvy Piscatelli for 70-plus yards and a touchdown pass to Cadillac Williams. Going into the second half, the Buccaneers probably had the momentum, having withstood that storm in the first half. And sadly, the offense was incapable of doing a damn thing in the second half. So, 3 and outs, poor drives, no progress. The Bills came out flat as well, but fortunately for them, they had the lead, and they were able to continue to pile it on and end up taking the victory. Some of the keys to the game that we talked about going in is we had to remind them that we're a running team. And I'll tell you what, we didn't look much like a running team against the Bills that day. We were sub 60 yards on the ground. Obviously, when you spot a team 17 points, it's hard to go in there and start pounding the run game. But as the analysts accurately portrayed, that 17 points came early, so we could have stuck with our original game plan. The Bills had other plans, though, and you can't take anything away from the Bills. They clearly did their study work in the film room. They had 8, 9 guys in the box. They were going to dare us to beat them through the air. And despite throwing 50 passes, Byron Leftwich and the Buccaneers were not capable of doing that. Had a big game from our tight ends, which we had talked about beforehand. Tight ends against the Buffalo Bills linebackers, especially with the injury, should have been the area to exploit. We came in and did that with Kellen Winslow getting 10 targets, 7 receptions for just under 100 yards, and a 42-yard touchdown. Jeremy Stevens was targeted a number of times as well, 9 targets, so 19 targets to the tight ends, but Jeremy Stevens, we couldn't convert many of those targets into actual completions. He only ended up with 3 completions for the game. On the defensive side of the ball, we still showed the same weaknesses we showed in Week 1, which is A, our front 4 is incapable of getting a pass rush on their own, and B, our secondary, when left on islands because of a blitz, is incapable of covering any quality receivers. The Bills did a great job with their no-huddle offense, driving the ball down the field, and Fred Jackson, had another great game. He put 163 yards on the Bucs. A couple of big runs in there helped out, but this guy ran hard. The Bucs tackling was abysmal. We had 24 missed tackles in this game, which is if you watch the Bucs, certainly of the last decade, that is not what this Buccaneers defense is known for. The missed tackles will kill you. That combined with the fact that I think we had 13 penalties for 120-something yards, 4 face mask penalties alone for 60 yards. There's no way you can overcome that when you're a team that's rebuilding the way the Bucs are right now. So, all in all, an absolutely horrible showing. There were some bright spots, as always. It was nice to see us able to move the ball through the air. With backup center Sean Mahan, the Bills got plenty of pressure in the middle in the A-gap, and that was a huge problem for us, not only in the rushing game but also in the passing game, where Byron Leftwich took an absolute beating. So all credit in the world to the Buffalo Bills. I had a couple people post that we weren't giving them any credit by predicting a victory against the Bills. That wasn't the case at all. I think the difference is, here in Tampa, we are absolutely in the middle of a rebuilding phase. We have never been an offense-first team, but right now our offense is doing a pretty darn good job in general, and our defense is not able to pull their weight. We're hoping that's going to turn around. On our show tonight, we had Jimmy Wilkerson, defensive end for the Buccaneers. We talked to him a little bit about that. The onus is on the defensive ends. All offseason we talked about the defensive tackles being the issue, but by all outward appearances, Chris Hovan, Ryan Sims, and Roy Miller are doing a hell of a job in the middle. Our defensive ends, Jimmy Wilkerson, Styles White, Gaines Adams, not getting the job done, especially Gaines Adams, who is teetering closer and closer to the bust term with a very, very poor effort against the Bills. He might as well not have been in the game. The only time you probably heard his name called was when he got a face mask penalty on Trent Edwards after Trent converted a fourth down conversion, where Gaines had no impact whatsoever other than to rip his helmet off by the face mask and give him 15 more yards. So, all in all, again, like I said, a poor showing. We've got the Giants this week coming into Tampa after going and dispatching at the Cowboys in their new facility. This scares the heck out of all Bucs fans because you got Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw, as well as Eli Manning, who's looking more and more like a quarterback who deserves $100 million as he went and dismantled the Cowboys' defense towards the end of that game. From a Bucs fan's perspective, we got to hope that the defensive line gets a clue, finds some way to get some pressure. The linebackers came a long way. Geno Hayes had a good game. Quincy Black, Barrett Ruud had a good game. The secondary is going to be hurt. Jermaine Phillips, broken thumb, could be out 6 to 8 weeks. In fact, they're talking about potentially going on IR, which would devastate the secondary, specifically the safety position, which is already thin. We'd see Will Allen move to the starting position. Steve Cargile is a backup we've got there, too. There would be some waiver wire activity, certainly, to fill that in. So we'll be back with a preview for this week's game on the Giants later this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.